how you doing? It's great to see you. You know, you probably got an Ironman 70.3 in your future, and the bike leg is really an opportunity to get some really good nutrition in, set up your run really well, and it's also where things can go completely off the rails. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about how to avoid not having a plan and just relying on what's on the course, having never tried it before and not even knowing if it's going to work for you, avoiding a massive bonk, avoiding bloating and just like all kinds of stuff that no one wants to talk about, nausea on the run, and even dehydration and cramping, although I don't want to talk about salt a ton today. We're going to stick mostly on calories. I'm Casey Arndt. I'm a triathlon coach here in Austin, Texas. I usually focus mostly on swimming, but you know, I offer triathlon coaching all around, so this is a really hot topic. How should you fuel on the bike? So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that today. And what it's really about for me typically, since I'm trying to race pretty hard, is getting in liquid carbohydrates. So you can certainly use energy bars and other things, but anytime you're putting protein and fiber and fat into your gut, it takes a really long time to digest, and this can be an issue if, one, you're riding pretty hard, two, you're going to run hard afterwards. So if you're having an easy bike ride outside, and you're just gonna go smell the roses, you can pretty much eat whatever you want. But when it comes down to racing this 56 miles, what I find is that for the majority of people, something that's in a liquid form, whether that's actual drinks in your bottle, it could also be gels, it could be chews even. I really consider them to be kind of like a solid form of a liquid, as weird as that sounds. Those, if they're primarily carbohydrates, are typically going to digest really fast and get out of your gut quicker than anything else, and set you up for a good run where you don't feel like you've got a bunch of weight in your belly. So you want it to be quick to digest. You want it to be a form of energy that your body wants. That's going to be glucose every time. And kind of the calorie range that you might want to start experimenting with would be somewhere in the 150 to 200 calories per hour range. Maybe the lower end for women and guys who are very lightweight, and then 200 and maybe a little bit more for you bigger guys. And that's a good place to start. Everybody's going to be different. What your gut is going to tolerate is going to be different. And so you'll want to just use this as a starting point for much experimentation. So if you've got a couple of months before your next event, you definitely want to start gearing your longer rides and long rides / bricks with testing out this nutrition so that you can really see how it works for you. So the goal is to not end up somewhere along the bike ride where you feel really unfocused or hungry, or you actually bonk. That would be an underfueling situation, and you also don't want to get to where you feel really, really full. The good thing about feeling full is you can always just wait and not take the next dose, but once you start to feel bloaty and nauseous, it can be hard to get rid of that, and if it carries over into your run, you felt great on the bike, but then all the stuff that was in your gut started to really act up on the run. That's something you don't want, which is why if you finish your ride, even if it's a big long 3-hour ride and you run for at least a mile, even at an easy pace, you're going to get some idea of whether you are not feeling good after that feeling. So the thing that I recommend to all my athletes is that they dose on a really regular schedule, and I like to drip out the nutrition in 20-minute segments. So for someone who's using bottle-based liquids, you can use a bottle like this. So this is just a regular 27-ounce bottle. They're actually not that hard to find these days on the internet, so I hear this was like something that I really love. There were not so many when I was looking for this, and what I've done is I put in 4 ounces of water at a time and then marked on the bottle where that level of water came up. So now I have all these 4-ounce doses drawn out on my bottle. You're gonna need like a little kitchen scale for this, one that measures both ounces and grams, and this is guys gonna be your best friend because now you've measured out your ounces. Now the question is, what's going in here? So what you need to do is figure out how many calories per hour. You're gonna divide that into 3 doses and then get the right grams of carbohydrates in there. So this is a little bit of a calculation. I'll put something in the description that will guide you through. You can also message me here with a comment, or email me at casey@gothedistancecoaching.com. That's casey@gothedistancecoaching.com, and I will fill you in on all the calculations. So just really quickly, if you're going for, say, 160 calories per hour, 160 calories is going to be, divide that by 4, it's going to give you 40 grams of carbohydrates. You want to split that up over your 3 doses per hour. So you can figure out how many doses are going in your bottle, and then figure out how many grams of carbohydrates you need to put in there. Now the tricky part is that whatever it is that you're putting in there, whether it's Perpetuum or CarboPro or Scratch or EFS or whatever it is, it's not going to be 100% carbs. Like, every gram of that thing is not carbs. So you need to figure out how many grams of your stuff per gram of carbohydrate, and that's going to be in that calculation too. So don't get freaked out by the math. This is actually not hard. I should totally show you how to do this. But the point of this is that you're eating on a schedule. So if you take your Garmin and you set it for a beep every 20 minutes, every 20 minutes you're going to drink from one line to the next. If you prefer to use gels, you can use just gels in a packet. You can also get something like this little flask where it's actually got markings on the side, and you could dilute it or something like that, so you know exactly how much is in each dose if you didn't want to use exactly the 100 calories or the 80 calories or whatever it is per packet. So there are ways of dosing that out so that you're getting an even amount of carbohydrates every 20 minutes, and this usually works really well. Now, if you're using a concentrated formula, you're going to want to have a water bottle along as well, because you want to make sure that the concentration of liquid that you're introducing into your gut is not super concentrated. So I always have a bottle in my mix which is a little bit concentrated, and then some water, so at every 20 minutes I'm taking a little from each, and then in the 10 minutes I'm just using water so that I'm hydrating constantly. Now, I live in Texas, it's hot. When we're racing, it can be in the 80s, maybe even the 90s, and I want to have a lot of water on board. If you're racing at 45 degrees, maybe you don't need that. But it's nice to know that out there on the course, you can take those bottle hand-ups at the aid stations. If you've never taken a bottle hand-up before, you're going to want to practice that with a friend and get used to it. It's actually not that hard if you're slowing down and your volunteer actually kind of knows what they're doing. You can even point to the volunteer that you want, and they'll be ready and they'll hand you your bottle, and then stick that in your cage. So that's really great. You're going to want to know that you have some salt either in that bottle of fuel, whatever it is that you're using, or you have some in your pockets in the form of tablets, or those little base salt vials are awesome. So if you do have a hot day, you can dose more salt according to need. And that's something that you're going to want to play around with in your long rides, because some people really, really need a lot of salt. I was recently talking to a guy who's using about 3 grams of salt over that 56 miles. Other people might use only a half a gram spread out over 3 hours. So it's really different from person to person. You're going to find out what leads to cramping and dehydration for you, and that you need more salt, and all of those things are going to be things that you'll be practicing. So practicing is really the key. You know, every time you go out for a long ride, I want you to practice your breakfast. I want you to practice your dosing of your nutrition on your bike exactly the same way that you're going to do it on race day, so that by the time you get to race day, it's just like, man, I've done this 10 or 15 times before. This is not hard. I know exactly what to do. You're remembering to actually drink when the little alarm goes off. That's important too. And so all of that stuff is really important. Now, the other thing that you can figure out during your practice is if the stuff that you put in your bottle doesn't really agree with you. So for instance, for me, I'm really sensitive to fructose. So there are a lot of sports drinks out there that are formulated with glucose and fructose because they use different transporters. And for some people, that's really great. They get more fuel in. But for me, it just makes me toot. So I avoid stuff with fructose in it. Other people love to avoid maltodextrin. There may be things on your no-no list, and things that you don't even know that don't get along with you. So during this experimentation, if you wait until 2 or 3 weeks before, and you've just kind of been eating granola bars out of your back pocket, but you know eventually you're going to use liquid, if you haven't practiced with that liquid over and over again and had time to try a few different things to find one that works for you, you're really going to be pressed for time, and you could have a problem on race day. So start this early, start it 2 or 3 months early, start experimenting with different strengths. If you are not sure what to try, I'd be happy to send you a list of things that have worked for other folks that you can try. There's a lot of good things out there. You can also just use the stuff that's on the course. Buy some Gatorade Endurance on Amazon and start using it, and make sure that you really can stand the taste for 3 hours, that you can tolerate the stuff that's in there, that your gut is happy. If you love the stuff that's on the course, that's awesome. Then you don't have to worry about bringing stuff. You don't have to worry about, oh, I dropped my bottle. Just pick up another one at the next aid station. It's really handy if you can tolerate that stuff. Not everybody can, so it's good to know if you prefer your own nutrition. But yeah, if you buy some packets of Gatorade Endurance and you try them out, then you're gonna know in advance. You don't want to just leave that to chance, because you may decide that you hate it. So just a quick note about cramping. Sometimes this is due to dehydration, which can be due to just not getting enough water in. Using flavor, using salt, these are all going to help you to drink more. You don't want to get a sloshy belly, obviously, but you want to be drinking plenty of water, and hopefully that's going to help. Now, you can also get cramping just from overexertion. So if you're going much harder than you trained, then that's something that can happen. So that's why your training not only needs to be for your nutrition, but also the level of watts or heart rate or whatever you use. You need to have some of that in your training. You can't just go easy on all those long rides and take forever and then think, well, I'm gonna race hard the day of, because your legs may not be ready for that. So make sure that your practice is really race specific, and then you're not gonna put your quads in a position where they both want to cramp on you at the same time because you made them work too hard. Paying attention to the terrain of your race is also important. If you did not train on hills and you show up to a race that's got a ton of climbing, the same thing could happen. So make sure you train for the terrain, the climate that you're going to be racing in, so that you're ready and you're not overexerting. Another weird thing out there is those crazy hot shot things with capsaicin in them. I've never tried one. They claim that those can help with cramping too. If you've had experience with that, I would love to hear about it. You can throw something in the comments and let's start a little conversation about hot shot. I think that's really fascinating. So thank you guys so much for listening. I would love to send you more details if you want to go more in depth with this. I also have an Ironman 70.3 closed Facebook group that I would love to have you in, and we have already started this conversation there. So you can feel free to jump in. I'm going to leave the link here where you can request to join here in the description. So I'd love to see you over there. There's also a link for my open water tips and tricks if your open water swim could use a little help. So you can click on that here in a minute in the description. And I look forward to seeing you again on another video. You have a great day. See ya.